Friday morning, the 17th day of January 2020. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I'm George Grant saying thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Good Day Grenada. Wow. I don't know if that's any indication of the sort of day we're going to be having, but I see we have a new winner here this morning. Mr. Peter Bishop. Mr. Peter Bishop just nosed out on Theorello. Peter's our winner this morning. Nice to see you guys. And as always, beautiful morning here on the Spice Hour, and here comes Anthony DeRiggs wishing everybody a blessed day. Yeah, it seems like this has become a habit, saying, oh, what a beautiful morning it is. Certainly is. I couldn't resist sitting out there on the balcony for just a few minutes and taking a look at the beautiful view, because this morning I haven't yet had the time to take a look to see the name of the ship, but there's a huge ship in here this morning belonging to Carnival Cruise Lines. And if I'm not mistaken, hang on a sec, let me take a look here. If I'm not mistaken, it's the first call by Carnival this season. Today is February 17th. Let me see here, February 17th. Huh? Well, you know, once again, not February 17th. Today is January 17th. Yeah, January 17th. Let me see here. January 17th. Yep, the Carnival Breeze is in town this morning. Yes, sirree. Beautiful sight down there at Melville Street. She has a capacity of 3,690 passengers and a crew of 1,386. So you're talking 3, 4, 5,000 possible visitors here today. Running back here, before I get into the rundown, just running back here on social media for a minute. Ryan Chabon saying good morning, and Peter Bishop's laughing at me. Don't know what you're laughing at, Pedro. John Franco is saying good morning, and so is Ramrod. And Margaret says, hello, from a freezing and windy New York. Oh, Margaret, I just wish I had taking some pictures of what's outside here this morning. Boy, you would certainly be eating your heart out. Beautiful morning. Peter also says it's windy and cold in Long Island. Bernard Gilbert saying good morning. And Ramrod saying, hope everyone is having a great day. Well, it is going to be a great day, Ramrod. So let's take a look at the rundown. John Nosyanek says, George, good morning, George and gang. Let's see how long it takes before I get buffering. You know something? I really believe that problem is related to Carriacou, because you complained yesterday, John, but somebody out there in, I think it was New York, said that they were receiving a beautiful signal, and so far it seems like you're the only person. So I think the problem is localized. It's in Carriacou. And of course, we all know the quality of internet that Carriacou has. I sympathize with you guys. You have my condolences. Anyway, let's take a look at this morning's rundown. I have lived long enough, says Anthony DeRiggs. Yes, sirree. That's the theme of a little piece that he's done this morning. Well, actually, he did that a couple of days ago. And we thought we'd share that with you this morning. Nice way to wrap up what I believe either has been or will continue to be a good week for you folks. And then, as I speak, the king has arrived. The pit stop man has arrived. Mr. Brian Pitt. Mr. Pitt usually joins us electronically on Fridays. Unfortunately, little Mackie Hoosie there ain't working too well, so he has kindly consented to come sit in my presence, flashing his legs this morning. He probably heard that George is wearing shorts this morning, so let me come in here and compete with him this morning. So anyhow, Brian's going to be with us right after we do Anthony. Okay, I don't want to keep this man waiting. So right after we do Anthony, we are going to do Brian. We're going to do Brian. That doesn't sound very nice at all. We are going to have Mr. Pitt on right after Anthony. And then we'll wrap up the program with the national report. Can't afford to spend an hour with you guys and not let you know the government's perspective of what's happening in this country. So let's get into Anthony here. Anthony, as always, has really, really moved Grenadians, including with this piece.
This piece is about life. Life, legacy, is not always calm. There are days when the sea is rough, and there are days when it is calm and the sailing is smooth. I have lived long enough to value every single day I open my eyes. I have lived long enough to understand that tomorrow is not promised to anyone, and the joy of today can swiftly turn to sorrow. Sorrow that can rush in as an unwelcome surprise. The days are unpredictable. Earthquakes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters can cause our life to become miserable. Look what happened in the Bahamas with that hurricane. Yes, we must always be prepared for the unexpected. I have lived long enough to know that the dog that deserves the bone does not always get it in this life, and the weak and defenseless often fall victim to those who sit on the seat called power, those who help only those they consider to be their friends. I have lived long enough to realize that material gain is a blessing, but only for the brief span of life that we have to enjoy it. For eventually, we don't like to think about it, but eventually, we will all leave this earth with empty hands. Naked we came, naked we go. How often do you see a U-Haul truck following a procession, a funeral procession bearing one's earthly possessions? I have lived long enough to observe people obtain wealth and they rise to prominence. Then they turn their backs on those they knew before their wealth and their fame. But when misfortune knocks them to the ground again, we go to the unpredictability of life. When misfortune knocks them to the ground, they cling once more to those that they had left behind. I have lived long enough to realize that money attracts friends. Many will stick to you, close to you when there is material gain. But when things get bad and misfortune steps in, money dwindles, so-called friends, they dwindle too. Run and hide. I have lived long enough to see the wrath called retribution descend like big stones on the heads of those who embrace evil. Then people remark that they are victims of light. No, it is only their wicked deeds catching up with them. Whatever you sow in this life, you are going to reap. And as old people say, sometimes what you cannot carry, you'll have to drag. I have lived long enough to know that faith in God is essential. I don't care who said they don't believe in God. I believe faith in God is essential. And without faith, one cannot face the future with confidence. In fact, today, when we hear of all these threats of war and bombs, how could you face the future with confidence if you do not have faith? I have lived long enough to appreciate the goodwill of my family and my friends. And I've been pleasantly warmed by the compassion that flows from loving hearts. And I can talk about that, especially when I go to Grenada and meet all those wonderful people. I have lived long enough to know that it is better, much better to conquer our blessings than to dwell on the sorrows we face and raise our blood pressure. And more I see the folly of worrying like sitting in a rocking chair, as someone said. You're not going anywhere. So instead of worrying today, let us breathe a little prayer. Prayer can change things. And of course, prayer and works go together. Remember that. I have lived long enough to value every single day I open my eyes. And every time I smell a rose, observe the mountain greenery, or behold the captivating beauty of the sunset, I pause to thank my Creator for sparing my life, for it could have been different. I thank my Creator, and we should all thank our Creator for protecting us and sparing our lives. God bless, as old Mr. Marisha used to say. God bless. Anthony DeRiggs.
All right, there you have it. That's Mr. DeRiggs's current contribution. It's captioned, I have lived long enough. Thanks a lot, Anthony. I see that you're with us out there in the audience this morning. Nice to have you as always. Just before I switch over to Brian here, I see that we've now been joined by Ryan in Orlando. He says, sunny 66 degrees in Orlando, Florida with a high of 71 today. Yeah, better here. Trevor Pascal. If I'm not mistaken, Trevor Pascal works with Digicel, if I'm not mistaken, and he's saying here, agreed. You know what he's talking about when I talked about the hassles that Carriacou constantly has with their internet? Yeah, you guys need to get Digi up there, right? Margaret Francis says, yeah, John, it's a Carriacou thing. Yeah, everybody knows Carriacou's internet is in the shambles. Lydia James is saying good morning to everybody. John says Carriacou are the poor country cousins, according to the Grens. I wouldn't go that far. We love you guys. Remember, we promised we're coming to see you guys sometime this year, you and Petty Martinique. And then Ryan says, amen, Tony. I thank Papa God for every day he gives to me. Sawandi Fabio Sam is saying good morning. Anthony DeRiggs says, Anthea says, Anthony, you nailed it. I'm smiling because I've lived long enough to agree with you. So, Anthea appreciates your stuff there. And Ryan Japan is sending God's blessings. John says, Again, this has to do with a piece that Anthony did. John says, waking up each day is a prize in itself. Absolutely, John. Frank Alexander says, good morning. Is it legal for the Ministry of Education to impose restrictions on what kids are allowed to eat on school campus? I think that they could stop selling on the campus, but as long as it is not an illegal item in the general society, then they are overreaching their autonomy. Pick up the telephone, call them people. See, Brian's chuckling, so I'm sure he's going to have something to say about that. He says the second issue is the restrictions on teachers having a business on their own free time without permission from someone in authority. One's time is theirs to use as they see fit. Let me see if he's still smiling still. We're giving Brian some stuff to bung away on this morning. John Nosyneck says, so it's a short wearing pit stop this morning. Yes, man, you should see the legs here this morning. John, I'm not going to put the camera down there, I promise. Grenada Sunshine is saying good morning, and Lydia James says, I've lived long enough to know that misfortune is not a nice lady. Took a while for that to sink in, Lydia, but yes, misfortune is not a nice lady. All right, so now that we've gotten rid of the preliminaries, let me say good morning to this young man. Take a look, take a look, take a look, take a look. So you can only see the top half, right? Good morning, Mr. Pitt. And how are you, sir?
Good morning, George. I am great. 2020.
Are you as excited about this year?
2020. George, if you told me I would live to see 2020 10 years ago, I would say, what are you talking about?
You too,
It seems so far away.
Yeah.
But a happy new year to all your listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
I hope this year would give us all clear vision. 2020 vision.
I take it you're optimistic.
Yes, because, I think Anthony would appreciate this. One of the things that we can't change too much is the beauty that surrounds us when we get up in the morning in Grenada. The birds and the whole natural environment as it unfolds. We are trying our best to destroy that, George, but I think Mother Nature is going to help us with this one. Yeah, to keep it as serene as possible so that we can live to see 2030.
Sometimes I think I sound like a broken record because every morning I come sit, 99% of the time, come sit here and say, oh, what a beautiful morning. And people are probably going, yeah, Grant. But it's beautiful. And you live up at Old Fort, so you have a bird's eye view.
Well, actually, no, I live on Lotus Lane, George.
You're on Lotus Lane now?
Lotus Lane, yes. Have been for about 30 years.
Wait a minute.
That's a well-kept secret. Don't tell anybody. With a much better view, too.
So when I saw you walking along Woolwich Road here the other day...
Exercise.
Ryan Jaban in Orlando is listening to you. He says, BP, just got back from jogging? Do you jog or walk?
I walk.
Wow.
Yes, I walk. I don't jog. At my age, it might get the heart beating too fast. Can't afford that.
At least you still have a heart, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. John Franco says, hindsight is 2020.
We all should have clear and good vision this year. I hope that is the same way the policymakers are operating, that their vision will be clear and productive.
That's my prayer for them too, Brian, because I'm really upbeat about this year.
Somebody mentioned about the teachers, George, and working. Many moons ago, I understand that the birds in Antigua gave permission for public servants.
When you say the birds, you didn't mean the tweet, tweet,
No,
tweet.
no,
You
no,
meant
I am talking about the family
family,
that
the
ran
Birds family.
Antigua for a little while.
A long
They
while.
gave public officers and public servants permission to do other things, go into other businesses, as a subsidy for their low salaries.
Okay.
Maybe the teachers are not making a living wage. That's why they have to find something to subsidize that salary. So maybe it's something that we should think about. Why do people feel it necessary to work above and beyond what they're doing for a living? And I believe in Grenada right now, George, a lot of people are not only working 4 or 5 jobs, but they're finding other ways to make a living, like turning their hand, as them people say. So you get a barrel from a family in New York, and in that barrel is a lot of stuff that you can turn your hand. You can sell some shoes and shirts and what have you, just to make ends meet. So it should be an indication to the powers that be, listen, we need to pay attention to what that people are calling a living wage.
Well, how come all of that is out in the public domain? You know it, I know it, they know it, but those in authority, it escapes
The living wage, George, is a matter. It's an economic matter that is being discussed right now. Yeah, because trade unions have failed their membership in a lot of cases, and people are finding it difficult to live. We have not considered all the things that people need to live. We have not considered rental increases. We have not considered increases in the cost of living, etc., etc., etc. So people are finding it a little bit more difficult to make ends meet at the end of the month. And that is something that we need to pay attention to. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem.
Yes, Brian, we need to pay attention. But like I'm asking, how come we're paying attention, but those in authority, it just goes, "What?"
Because the focus, George, of those in authority is to get re-elected. So the decisions and the policies they put in place are short-term. They are to get them elected. So they're 4 and 5 year cycles. That don't work in the long term. That do not work in the long term.
I'm sure you've heard politicians complain that they don't get good salaries and so on and so forth, you know, by the time they share the little bit that they get with their constituents and so on and so forth. One would have thought that, you know, that may have been helpful in helping them to recognize what you and I are going through.
George, when we make short-term decisions, eventually we get ourselves in a situation where we're between a rock and a hard place. Let me give you an example. I noticed earlier tonight there were a lot of free kind of events. There was an event on the Carnage,
Right, big one.
which you can go to, a big event on the Carnage, you can go to and admire the fireworks. There was an event in Quarantine that I understand you could drive a car in there for $20 and look at the fireworks, which means there were less events that the government would have collected VAT from. Should I repeat that, George? So the more public events you had at Olia's night, very good decision. And at the end of those decisions would be people would like what we did for them and maybe vote for us. The revenue would be affected. The car situation in Grenada, George. We gave people, or we are giving people, bonded facilities all over this island. A lot of cars are coming in. A lot of cars are being sold.
You have one?
I have a car, yeah.
I don't.
But a couple of things are happening. The roads are being deteriorated, and I want to get to that in a minute. But we are collecting all our revenue from the importation of cars. So we're between a rock and a hard place again. What is it going to cost us to fix the roads as opposed to how much money we are collecting? Short-term decision, because if we give somebody in Parish St. Mark's a license to have a bonded facility, he will bring in a car. We might probably collect the revenue from the car, but then what happens? Yeah, a lot of cars come into the island. And the condition of the roads, George, and I didn't want to start here, but while we're on it, is of great concern. Because I understand that nationwide, island-wide, we are having some difficulties with the roading system. And we have a fantastic road system, George?
Absolutely.
Now, And I've been thinking about this recently, because the amount of roads that are falling apart our policymakers are taking us down what I will call the Chinese Silk Road. Peter George? The Chinese Silk Road. Not all over the world the Chinese are building infrastructure, right? So this person, in a discussion I had with this friend the other day, he said, but Brian, what's going to happen here is that we're going to give some Chinese company the contract to repair the roads that they probably helped destroy, because some time ago, the decision was made not to bring in anything more than 10 tons in terms of truckage in Grenada. I stand corrected on that. But I noticed some trucks in Grenada right now that are way beyond 10 tons, George. And they might be partially responsible for the conditions that our roads are in right now. So if that is so, and these vehicles are helping to break our roads or to destroy the roads, eventually somebody will get a contract, and I imagine the Chinese are in the best position to get a contract to fix the roads.
What happened to CCC?
And then, like CCC, a few people will get a 10% or 15% and get very rich off of the repairs of the roads. Now, maybe the people in the Integrity Commission should be taking note, and I note that they also admit that there's a reasonable amount of corruption going on, because by the speech I heard the other day where they suggested that maybe some people might change maybe 80% or 180% or 130% change in their attitude towards corruption, that they will take note of what is happening as we move forward. So, chicken and egg, George. Chicken and egg situation. Yeah. I know, I'm sorry I had to laugh at this one, but you know, some of these things are so obvious that you just sit down and think about it. You scratch your head and say, okay, but why we continue to make these short-term decisions?
Point I was trying to make earlier.
But we are doing that because we have to stay in power, George. And it brings me to a conversation I was having with a young man the other day. And he said to me, Mr. Pitt, why when someone has or is going to make a social comment on an issue that will affect our generation, this guy is probably about 30, 35, 40-ish, that we are labeled as being a politician or put in the category of politics? I said, well, you know, that is because the politicians want to put you in that category. They don't want you to get too many people on your side because they see you as a threat. And a professor at SGU, who has a young class, and I suspect that he is in the business of teaching young people, suggested to his students that he would like to see a new crop of young politicians who has a social conscience in the Caribbean. And he said he got total silence. And that is because nobody, George, no young person, or most young people, don't want to be associated with politics because of the label of politics these days.
And are these the young kids that the politicians were reaching out to?
These are a lot of the young people that are the decision makers of tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they are suppressing their thought. They are suppressing their ideas that would affect their lives because of the labels society put on them. And I believe, George, that is also very dangerous, because we would like to hear what these young people think of what we are doing now that will affect their lives tomorrow.
You know, I like hearing from the kids, and I had a group of them coming in here some time ago. But as I listen to you, I'm hearing you say is that apparently all these Buju Banton concerts and all these concerts and T-shirts and everything, it's backfiring because the youth don't want to get involved.
No, that has its audience. As a matter of fact, I want to take a bet with you, George, that by the time the next election rolls around,
Right.
if we don't change the conditions of parties running for political office, in other words, have forums to discuss issues, have debates on issues. Then the bourgeois bantams kind of quote-unquote shows that we've been having to get people to vote for us will continue. And it will also continue the cost of running a political campaign, and the one who has the most money will probably win. So George, I note that there was a group of people meeting with the electoral office not too long ago about this expiry date on the on our passes. I hope that they raise this issue about not only campaign financing, but also who is going to put together this thing where political parties will get to sit down, or political candidates will get to sit down and discuss issues, rather than just having a party at Tantine where people can jump and wave and then decide they're going to vote for the party who plays the most music.
Did you see that statement issued by civil society about that meeting?
I note yes.
Yeah.
But the impression I took away from that was it was about the expiry date and amending the law so that that expiry date could be accommodated. But there are some other issues, more pressing issues. Now,
They raised the issue about,
Yes.
for example, the recommendations from CARICOM
and the OAS,
Yeah.
yes. And I hope they pursue that line of discussion, because that will affect who wins the next election and the short or long-term policies of the government that's going to come in play. Yeah.
I'm hoping to get them in here to explain to us exactly what went on in that meeting. Yes, they explained a bit in that press statement, but I want some more detail.
And I think we should push for that. And I think we should push for more discussion and public discussion about how we can make elections more transparent and more consequential, more full of body.
Would you be willing to join in such a discussion with them?
Of course.
I'm trying to get them in here on Sunday. I'll
Now, Sunday might be too soon, but anyway, it's a discussion that can happen over time. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow morning, George.
Okay.
All
right. The civil society also met with, what's the name of that group? JIPA, J-I-P-A, about the national health insurance. Did you hear about that one?
Mm-hmm. Yes. But that is an interesting discussion, that national health insurance issue.
I'm also trying to get them in here on Sunday.
Well, I'm in the process of going through that paper right now, and I note in the first read they were talking about who will pay for it, and who will pay for it is a question that I have. Does government? You see, I suspect, George, that in the very near future, if not now, government's revenue base will start to fall, whether it be from taxes, VAT, customs duties. It's where it gets its revenue from will come into question. Government is going to have to find innovative ways now of collecting revenue. I mean, the CBI program is one program that they can get
But
monies.
haven't they been doing that by increasing the tax burden on it?
Well, yes, but there's so much taxes. Don't forget the words of the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell: the more you tax people, the less you might collect over time. So we have to be careful. But I suspect that government's revenue base might be affected in the next 12 months or so. The revenue departments in government might very well expect visits from the Minister of Finance, and the word would be, listen guys, you got to get us some more money.
Oh boy, you're painting a pretty gloomy picture.
It's not a gloomy picture. It's a picture, you see, if you look at certain trends, George, there are certain conclusions that you will come to. Yeah? And that is why we have to look at the trends as they're unfolding. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And if we don't pay attention to trends, then we could be in a lot of trouble.
Well, I thought we were already in a lot of trouble.
It's going to get worse.
That's what I meant when I said you're painting a gloomy picture, Mr. Pitt.
2020. We need clear vision.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see it. Let's try and shift gears a
Cricket.
bit. Yes.
George.
I want to discuss this one with you because there was a debate on my forum the other day about whether or not there was a large crowd for the first match. The Prime Minister said he was pleased with the turnout for the first match because it indicated the support of Grenadians for West Indies cricket. And then I found out that apparently they had less than 3,000 people there in a 15, 16,000 capacity stadium. So
There were good crowds in both days given the competition, given who we were playing. We were playing Ireland. We were playing somebody who is at the bottom
okay.
of the heap, or close to the bottom. Although we are playing somebody in our league, because we are now in the bottom. We are now in the bottom of the pack, kind of thing, Josh. But I categorized what happened at Queen's Park in those 2 days this way. Phil Simmons' Irish team beat Phil Simmons' West Indies team. Now, what do I mean by that? Phil Simmons was the Irish coach for a few years.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. When we decided we didn't want him or whatever, he went to Ireland and he did a good job in Ireland as he did in Afghanistan. He's now taken over West Indies, and from all reports, he's getting the guys to perform a little better than they have been performing.
Right.
I note that, and I think other people who are listening to this program might very well note, that West Indies fast bowlers don't bowl very many no balls anymore. And there's a good reason for that. But I heard some comments in the park, George, in those 2 days that disturbed me. People were blaming the players. This guy played this stupid shot and this guy. I had to remind some people that the players don't pick themselves. Somebody picked the players. Now in team sport, we get together the best talent that we have, and then we hire a coach and a management team to get the best out of that talent. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So it makes no sense criticizing a player that might have the batting approach to get every ball over the boundary. As a matter of fact, I think we lost the second game because Ireland gave us ones and twos, and we tried to hit sixes. And when we tried to hit the sixes, they caught us on the boundary. But I am very, very positive about what I see. I suspect and I believe that West Indies will start winning again in the not too distant future. I give them 2 or 3 years. I believe we'll be very competitive in the next World Cup, if we manage to put the right team on the field. Yeah.
Yes.
But there's a lot of talent in the West Indies. If we could get the guys to recognize that ones and twos are runs. The 18th and 19th over in Queen's Park, George, there were 4 dot balls. I think West Indies can be accused of having the most dot balls in a limited over game of any team, because we want to hit 4s and 6s. And I suspect over time, Phil Simmons will deal with that. So the next time a Phil Simmons Ireland team meets a Phil Simmons West Indies team, the Phil Simmons West Indies team will win. It might be as soon as St. Kitts on Saturday.
So suffice to say, you're very much like Winthrop Wilshire.
I haven't spoken to Mr. Wilshire.
He is one hell of a Windies fan.
I think most people of our age who grew up with the success of West Indies cricket, who felt very proud when we traveled that we had a world-class winning team. We walked around the subways wherever we traveled, or the buses wherever we traveled, with our heads very high, George. We still believe that it is through cricket we will probably see a united West Indies. because we're going to enjoy success together. And I pray for that moment to come again.
Hope springs eternal. Mr. Pitt, before you wrap up your Friday morning pit stop, what else is up your sleeve this morning?
What is up your sleeve, George? There's a lot happening around the place, and
there's never a dull moment in this country, Brian. Never.
Yeah, but somebody has to be, a few years ago, and I can understand what that young person felt when somebody labeled him as being a politician because he decided to talk on social issues. I was doing a program. I was hosting a television program, and the Prime Minister went in the Parliament and said, that Brian Pitt is on the other side, or words to that effect.
You too, eh?
He didn't call me by name, but when he mentioned the show and he said that, the people I were interviewing, I was very biased and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So I was categorized
Welcome.
as being a politician.
Welcome.
I have never aspired to be a politician. I am not a member of any political group, but I reserve the right to talk on social issues.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to look at trends. And listen, if we continue along that road, that's what will happen. Yeah, I used to tell my kids all the time, listen, I've been down that road, and I know there's a precipice at the end of the road. If you don't want to listen to me, and you want to walk down the same road, you might go over the precipice,
Yeah.
But I will guarantee you that if you go over the precipice because you didn't listen to me, I will help you come out of the precipice. I will help you out, providing you're still alive. Yes, George? I think we are critically close to a place where it's going to be difficult for us to come back from. And if I am right, and our revenue base continues to be eroded without any plan. I mean, it is nice to be building hotel rooms all over the country, but how many jobs? And what quality of jobs are we creating? I listened to the hierarchy of the CBI program the other day, and I was shaking my head because that's not the answer. Migration is becoming more and more difficult, George. Our kids can't travel. And they're very bright, huh? So they may not want to be discussing social issues in public because they're afraid that they might be labeled, but that is a little powder cake that we're keeping down. We should be providing forums for them to have this kind of discussion. And if we don't do that soon, we're going to be in trouble. Forget how much money we have in the party coffers to win the next election. We might be surprised.
Recently there's been quite a debate because of what's been happening to our roads, about the slippage in Molinaire and St. David's and what have you. And there was a press conference this week where CBI personnel, Christiali and Bruce, you saw that?
Yes.
Okay. And the question is being asked, so what's being done with the 40% of revenues from the CBI that's set aside contingency? And there were people who were advocating that money could be used, one, to help the hospital get out of this mess, two, to deal with these slippages we've been having and so on. What say you, Brian?
Yes, I agree, George. I find it interesting that, and again I stand corrected, that the legislation talks about the use of that fund for emergency purposes. Now, what's emergencies? And who determines what's an emergency?
Slippages, for example?
If as we get closer to the election, we determine to fix some roads in wherever in order to get votes, that's an emergency. So we can create emergencies, whoever the policymakers are that decides what is an emergency. Now, I understand that somebody else said, some of that fund would be used just in case there's a hurricane, there's a natural disaster, and we have to come out of it. Some of that fund could be used for that purpose. Fine. But we need funds on a daily basis. We need cash flow, George, because government has recurring expenditure almost happening on a daily basis. Yeah? The fixing of the schools, the maintenance of government property, you name it. And they have to get money to do that. Could they depend on the CBI program for money to do that? To meet our recurring expenditure? I don't know. So we can't stop the cars from coming because we need the money from the duties that people pay on those vehicles. Yeah? Chicken and egg.
But driving has become horrendous in this place.
Oh yes. And I think the bus drivers are complaining now of the cost of maintenance on their vehicles given the conditions of the roads. And if that discussion continues, George, they will want to get an increase in bus fare. And that would be, again, another burden on the people who use public transportation. I don't know that the trade unions who negotiated for increases in salaries took that into consideration. Yes, George?
I don't know. I don't know if you saw this, Brian, but on WhatsApp the other day, somebody was circulating 2 photographs with some very sarcastic comments. The first photograph was of road construction taking place many, many, many years ago, where they were putting the layers down and the road looked beautiful. And they were saying, this was then. And the other photograph was a road with tons and tons of potholes. And the caption was, and then the experts arrived. Sarcastic, but true. In the old days, they really constructed roads that lasted. Nowadays, they slap something in there, the next shower of rain comes, it's washed off, and,
George, we lost control of the tendering process. So that if you're going to build a piece of road from point A to point B, people will tender, and the best tender will win, and that person will have to stay to that agreement. In recent years, a lot of these things don't go to proper tendering. And if a road is supposed to cost $1,000, it ends up being built at $2,000. But the amount of money spent on the road is $500. So you have some work that leaves a lot to be desired. And I think that's a wide open secret, George, that we are not building the quality of roads given what we're supposed to spend. I'm going to find the right words in a minute. But that becomes a major problem. The cost of work, George, has been questioned in this country for the last few years, whether or not we're getting value for money when people bid on a contract. Value for money. And unless we can get control of that, George, we're going to have problems.
All right, Brian, we are running out of time. Any final shot you want to take this morning?
No, George.
No? All right. Well, let me make you a promise. Got you on the spot here in front of the audience. Not this coming Sunday, the following Sunday, I'm going to try and arrange for you to talk with the folks from civil society who met with the electoral office.
Okay.
I will also make a conscious effort to get the electoral office to join us in that conversation.
That would be nice.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's why I will.
But you know what would also be interesting, George? To have a town hall type meeting so that people can ask questions of these folks. You see, a lot of decisions are made in some back room somewhere. We need to get people involved in the conversation. And Kaji's right, but how do you have this public conversation? Who is going to initiate this public conversation. I would argue that the social partners, because of their name, social partners, have a responsibility to initiate this kind of conversation. I don't hear them. I said again, George, I have a list of those people who are on the mailing list of social partners. We're going to start calling them because they have a social responsibility to Grenada to be asking the right questions and have the right forum for people to ask the right questions and have public discourse on social issues.
Okay. Somebody here is promising, John Nozinek is promising that he will videotape some of the roads in Carriacou for us. We'll make
So
sure
it's Grenada, Carriacou, and maybe Petit Martinique.
maybe Pitt Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Pitt, I thank you, sir, as always.
George, have a lovely weekend.
You got any plans besides watching
I
cricket?
can't tell you what my plans are. What are you talking about, George?
Cricket?
Well, you know, on a final note, just before I go, somebody was commenting in the park that the Prime Minister did mention that we're going to get lights. We're going to have lights in the stadium in the next 6 months or so. Yeah?
Yes.
You know what the person said to me, George? Well, Brian, they have lights in almost every playing field in Grenada. You know? Again, I suspect that is a political decision to have lights in all the playing fields around the country, but not in the National Stadium.
Yeah.
Have a nice weekend, George.
Never mind the lack of health care, proper health care. Got our priorities all buggered up, don't we?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, BB. Hang on there for a sec. Folks, we're going to take a little break here now, and then we're going to come on back with your national report. Mr. Pitt has already invaded the People's National Report, but that's quite acceptable as far as I'm concerned. Break time, and then the GIS.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us
As we energize our Speyside.
Renlec, energizing our Grenada.
Conveniently located in the Grandstand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grenada will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Senior public servants participate in a two-day finance symposium with an objective of taking corrective actions to improve on the present rate of implementation. Details of this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Thursday, January 16, 2020, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. A first project implementation two-day symposium organized by the Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic and Technical Cooperation, the Policy Unit, Ministry of Implementation, with funding support from the EDF and technical support from PricewaterhouseCoopers, began on Thursday at the Grenada Trade Center Annex. The symposium is organized with the objective of addressing the current factors affecting the rate of implementation with the objective of taking corrective actions to address the inadequacies. The facilitator for the two-day symposium is Mr. Fitzroy James, consultant with the Department of Economic and Technical Cooperation, and it is chaired in part by Alistair Bain of the Grenada Development Bank and Gary Smith from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Quinta Charles, acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, in delivering brief remarks during the opening ceremony, put the symposium into context, highlighting what the outcomes are expected from the activity. Charles says it's extremely important and timely to find solutions to the present implementation challenges faced.
Based on preliminary data for 2019, our rate of implementation of the PSIP was below 50%. In other words, the government was only able to spend 50% of what it had budgeted to spend on its capital projects. This is a major concern, given its negative impacts and implications for job creation and for the overall growth and sustainable development of our country. Therefore, we are kicking off the year tackling this problem head-on. We have no other choice. Over the 2 days of this symposium, we will take a deep dive to really identify the root causes of our implementation problem and to come up with practical solutions to address the challenges.
The focus on the 2 days, she says, will be on the solutions to the challenges that will be highlighted.
What must be done better and or what must be done differently, be it administratively, operationally, in the areas of procurement, project design, project management, project supervision, or in our interministerial coordination and collaboration, or in our collaboration with stakeholders and development partners, as well as other areas.
In delivering the feature address, Minister for Infrastructural Development, Public Utilities, Energy, Transport and Implementation, Honorable Gregory Bowen, said he feels encouraged by the turnout of senior officers to what he terms as an extremely important symposium. Minister Bowen reiterated to the participants that there is a need to consider the long-term development of the nation during the discussions.
Today is a start of communication to you of the new approach to implementation. As a government, we recognize that we cannot afford to pay management fees for projects that are not performing well or not performing at all. We have a responsibility to be good stewards of all the funds that we have sourced from development partners and internally from our taxpayers. And as such, we have the obligation to manage and to manage well. The traditional approach to project management is that we keep an eye on the cost, the budget, the time, that is the scheduling of activities to ensure that we meet deadlines, and last but not least, the quality, that we meet the requirements of the project.
There is a need to go beyond the traditional approach, Minister Bowen says, as implementation is and will be the core of government's approach.
I therefore urge you to work as a team, each one of you, and indeed all public servants, a conscientious part of the whole of government team, to submit reports on time, to ensure the follow-up meetings that we ask are held, and that we stay on course. Utilizing technology will make these mandatory tasks easier. So all permanent secretaries or heads of departments, we now have the GD4 program, and it is not by chance. Make use of it so that we can do our implementation.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. Record turnout of Grenadians at the National Cricket Stadium on Wednesday to witness what was dubbed as an exciting start to the T20 series between West Indies and Ireland at the National Cricket Stadium. Ireland took to the crease first and placed 208 runs for the loss of 7 wickets on the board in their allotted 20 overs, while West Indies in reply mustered 204 for the loss of 7 in their 20 overs, losing the game by 5 runs. Josh Little, bowler in the last over, who brought the game home to Ireland, says that his team got off their cracking start due to the dedication they gave to training that resulted in the victory.
Well, at the beginning of the over, I just chatted to my captain and I wanted to have a clear plan as possible and try to execute my skill, and with a bit of luck, came off today, so happy with that.
The young bowler says he looks forward with great anticipation for the final 2 games in the T20 series at Warner Park, St. Kitts.
Hopefully a repeat of today. We'd like to win the series, so that'd be nice if we could repeat today.
Would there be any with the same team, or what's the team plan?
I'm not sure right now. Just relax for the evening, and then travel to St. Kitts tomorrow, and then we'll decide when we get there.
Dwayne Bravo, who has returned to international cricket after announcing his retirement in 2018, gave a review of West Indies team performance.
It's good to be back, and I'm happy I given this opportunity again to represent West Indies once more. I feel the love from the people here in Grenada, and even walking into the hotel and stuff, even the maids, everyone is happy, and you see a bunch of kids come here with the welcome back DJ Bravo sign. So those things make me feel really proud, and I'm happy to be a West Indian, and know that I am still loved and appreciated by the fans. Not the result we wanted, but again, in cricket, you win and you lose, but I think with the fight that we give, with the bat, with the chasing over 200 is always a difficult chase, but to lose the game by 5 runs, I think it's a great team effort. The Ireland get off to a flyer. They bat very well, both Paul Stirling and O'Brien. they put us on a lot of under pressure in the first 6 overs, which set up the game for them. But again, we fight back. The way Hayden Walsh bowled in the middle overs, my next 3 overs was good. Cotterell finisher of the innings well and carry play as well. So there's a lot of positive you can take out of it, because at one point they will expect to be chasing 230, 240 with the start that they get, and we restrict them. So all in all, it was a great team effort all round. Barring the results, I think the way how Evan batted, the way how Simmons batted, Polly, Hitmire, they all played those cameo. We look at Puran as well. So I feel good to know that amongst this talented squad here.
Bravo told the GIS that his aim is not to take anyone's position, but to share the experience with the younger cricketers on his team.
My role is not really to come back to try and take anyone's spot or to play every game, but it's to try and share whatever knowledge I have and gain over the years to try and pass it on to these younger players, because I believe with a captain like Polly and a coach as Phil, that these young players could produce great things for West Indies in times to come.
The Ministry of Infrastructural Development, Public Utilities, Energy Transport and Implementation is advising motorists and pedestrians to be very cautious when using a section of the road at Windsor Forest, St. David. The engineering team from the Ministry of Infrastructure recently conducted an evaluation of the area and found that it is unsafe for public use. And with that report, we come to the end of the National Report for Thursday, January 16, 2020. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry-Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it. We're going to let you go home early today, not to watch cricket, just so that you can enjoy the weekend. Pilgrims, as always, one parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Today's reading comes to you from the book of Mark. Mark chapter 24, verses 3 to 14. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. But see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All of these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death. And you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations. And then the end will come. Matthew 24, 3 to 14. Okay, pilgrims, let me see here. I think that's going to do it. Yeah, that's going to do it. And Georgie Porgy says a big thank you. Not just for this morning, man, but for the whole week. We've had some fun here this morning. And as such, I'm extending an invitation to you to join me on Sunday morning. Yeah, Sunday morning. Let me see here if I can give you a little sneak peek. Sunday morning, we're going to run that RGPF media conference. I only ran the introductory statement by the acting commissioner of police this week. And I did promise you that I wanted you to hear the questions, but more importantly, the responses that were given to the media at that press conference. I think you'll find some concern, you'll find some room for concern there. So please join us for that. The CBI post-cabinet briefing. Well, for those of you who were with us this week, I'm sure you guys remember how aggressive you were with your responses to the CBI post-cabinet briefing a couple of days ago. And I thought, it's important that those who join us on Sundays really get to see and hear what went on at that conference. Some eyebrows were raised. A lot of eyebrows were raised. And then our main feature on Sunday morning will be conversation with Mr. Peter Andel of Andel and Associates. A lot of people jumped on this closure of his supermarkets a few weeks ago. But there's a lot that the public really doesn't know. This thing didn't just start with a closure of the supermarket. And I've asked them to please come in on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, and provide me and you with a chronology, if you will, of what led up to and etc. regarding the closure. So Mr. Randall has agreed to join me on Sunday morning. Quite the rundown. On that note, Georgie Porgy's going to hightail it out of here. He's already had breakfast, so he's not going to lie to you and saying he's going to go feed his face. Yep, see John and Maria. They have already signed in for Sunday. Spread the word, pilgrims. God bless you. See you on Sunday.